Angela is not done with her revenge. Although she'd been arrested for the fake profile murder case, the cops didn't seem to have any concrete evidence to prove Angela guilty in season 3 of Fake Profile. She and her therapist Joaquin weren't ready to give up on their plan even after their arrest. Their grand plan involved getting arrested, so they weren't surprised that they'd ended up in prison. They were rather confident that they would soon make it out. Meanwhile, someone was out there targeting the girls who worked at Camilla's establishment, Golden Lips. The modus operandi was just like the fake profile case, but since Angela and Joaquin were already in prison, the cops couldn't figure out who the perpetrator was. So did the cops finally solve the puzzle? Well, with a spoiler warning, let's jump into the details. Who was responsible for the murders? It was not surprising that Angela and Joaquin were responsible for the murders. From the very beginning of season 3, it was established that Angela and Joaquin had a very concrete plan to take down Camilla. But the question was how they would execute this nefarious plan, even though they were behind bars. Well, as it turns out, money and influence can go a long way. For Joaquin, it was the thrill of getting away even after committing a grave crime that kept him going. Also, the ending revealed that his plan involved starting a cult. I'll get back to this later in the video. Angela despised Camilla. She held her responsible for everything that had gone wrong in her life, and she wanted her to suffer. So she employed vulnerable individuals who either had some past connection with Camilla and Miguel or were simply desperate for money. One such individual was Becky. Miguel had recently hired her as a nanny to look after his daughter Eva. Angela had instructed Becky to sleep with her ex-husband to destroy his relationship with Camilla. But instead of sticking to the plan, Becky ended up sleeping with Angela's son, Lucas. Not that she was in love with him, but just for the thrill of it. Angela was furious when she discovered what Becky was up to, but she gave her a chance, hoping that she would somehow manage to execute the plan. Becky had drugged Miguel one night, and she forced herself on him. Angela had her other minions to take a video of it to eventually expose Miguel's infidelity. But things didn't go as she'd envisioned. Lucas walked in on Miguel and Becky, and he was so furious that he attempted to shoot her. The bullet didn't hit Becky, but the incident left Lucas traumatized. His relationship with his father worsened, though he continued to obsess over Becky. The scandal affected Miguel and Camilla's relationship, but Miguel didn't seek comfort in Angela as she'd hoped he would. Miguel decided to terminate Becky's employment because he'd figured she'd drugged and raped him. Since Becky had failed to kill all the dancers at Golden Lips, and she also ended up sleeping with her son, Angela punished her. She tortured her and was almost about to kill her before Oliver stopped her. He reminded her that Lucas would never forgive her if he found out that she was responsible for Becky's death. Angela ultimately chose to let Becky walk away, but after the damage she'd done to her, Becky was out for revenge. She attempted to stab Angela before Lucas stopped her. Lucas and Becky fled from the scene, but the cops ultimately nabbed Becky. She confessed to Detective Indra that Angela had hired her to sleep with her ex-husband, and also to kill the dancers at Golden Lips. So Becky lived in the US before Angela hired her. She was an addict and a young mother. Her baby had likely been taken away by child services when Angela found her. She promised to help her, but in return, she had to execute her evil plan. But Becky's confession alone wasn't enough to put Angela behind bars. Even after all the murders Angela had committed, the court didn't find her guilty, owing to a lack of evidence. Camilla was the only one who testified against her, so the case didn't really stand a chance. It can be assumed that Angela had hired Becky and the rest before she was arrested, and they were asked to kill the dancers while they were in prison to confuse the cops. They replicated the same modus operandi as the fake profile case to make Angela look innocent. Joaquin's plan involved staying in prison a little longer, so he took the blame on himself. He confessed to the cops that he was solely responsible for the murders and that Angela was innocent, and their plan ultimately worked. In this season, we also discover that Miguel has a brother. Oliver had been working for Angela, and well, he was envious of Miguel, who'd grown up in a privileged family and had everything that he'd been denied. Oliver and Miguel lived in an orphanage before Miguel was adopted. Oliver always hoped he would one day be reunited with his brother, but Miguel never came to visit. So when Angela offered him an opportunity to get back at his brother, he accepted it. Oliver and his girlfriend Joanna had a criminal record, and their job was to make Golden Lips disappear. Angela's plan was to make Camilla run out of money so that she would have no option but to leave Colombia. The only problem was that Oliver fell in love with Camilla, so Joanna decided to take matters into her own hands. She shot Camilla, but it didn't cause a fatal injury. Camilla survived, and Oliver and Joanna had to leave Colombia. Angela had also teamed up with David, Camilla's ex-husband, who'd recently shown interest in her business. David felt guilty for bringing so much suffering, but Angela had reassured him that it was the only way to get justice for everything Camilla and Miguel had put him through. Did Angela kidnap Eva? Angela didn't hesitate to get her daughter Eva kidnapped so that she could fix her relationship with Miguel. Since Camilla and Miguel had already broken up after Camilla learned about his one-night stand with Becky, Angela figured she needed to nudge Miguel a bit more so that he would come crawling back to her. She'd hoped the breakup would be sufficient, but when she was proved wrong, she had Joaquin and David abduct her daughter. Miguel was extremely attached to Eva, and he was completely shattered when he discovered that a group of men had kidnapped his daughter when she'd stepped out for a party. Angela pretended to be equally shocked by the news, and after Becky attacked Angela, Miguel figured he must stay by her side given their circumstances. He perhaps thought that even after everything, Angela was the only one who was there for him, and he caved in. Angela and Miguel got intimate that night. Yes, despite a stab wound that surprisingly didn't need medical attention. Angela finally got what she wanted, and she celebrated her success with her co-conspirators. She asked Oliver and Joanna to ask Joaquin to release her daughter. But there was a twist in the story. Joaquin wasn't interested in releasing Eva. Joaquin faked his death, he was found hanging from a noose in his prison cell, and he was declared dead. But surprise, surprise, he was very much alive, and presumably he managed to escape when he was taken out of a prison in a casket. Maybe he drugged himself to temporarily pause his heartbeat and he was announced dead. While Angela's goal was personal, Joaquin had come up with the vision of an alternate society, and Eva was a part of his plan. What happened to Eva? Joaquin had slowly been gathering followers, and evidently they also played a significant role in helping him escape. He was a master of words, and his brainwashed followers looked up to him for guidance. In the final episode, we discovered that Joaquin's ultimate goal had been to start a cult. He and his followers had moved to Desiderio Island, where they could live the way they pleased without scrutiny. Joaquin took Eva along with him, although it looks like that wasn't the deal he'd made with Angela. Things had changed quickly for Angela. She thought Miguel was in love with her again, but she couldn't have been more wrong. After Joanna shot Camilla out of spite, Miguel stayed with her in the hospital. They were still in love, but the circumstances weren't right. A year had passed and the family was still unaware of Eva's whereabouts. If Angela really wanted to, she could have connected with Joaquin. After all, their relationship was far deeper than just being co-conspirators. I wonder why she didn't make any effort to bring her daughter home. Is it possible that she was supposed to be the one to join Joaquin's cult, and when she refused to do so, she offered Eva to him? After all, we're talking about Angela, and anything is possible when it comes to her. Meanwhile, Camilla had been doing her own investigation, and she'd found out about Desiderio Island, and she made the mistake of sharing what she discovered with David. Camilla later discussed her findings with the detective. She'd mentioned that Joaquin had once told her about the 7 Beatitudes, the Book of Revelation, and she discovered that these were the pillar of a spiritual group living on Desiderio Island. The cult members were known as the Naturists, and Camilla was confident that Joaquin was running it along with the pastor. Detective Indra thought it was a wild theory, since Joaquin was already declared dead. But then again, she'd also learned that anything was possible when it came to Angela and Joaquin. Camilla further stated that the cult practiced polyamory, believed in complete freedom, had a self-government, and they propagated the idea that emotion was the foundation of everything. Indra figured there might be some truth in what Camilla had stated because she'd seen the cult symbol in Joaquin's prison cell when he was found hanging from the ceiling. Camilla ultimately decided to go to Desiderio Island to find Eva. Did Miguel and Oliver overcome their differences? Oliver, who'd left the country, returned to meet Camilla, and he asked her out for a drink. To his surprise, Camilla had informed the cops about him, and he got arrested. Oliver had told Camilla that after Joanna had shot her, he never saw her again, and she'd completely disappeared. According to the information Camilla had, Joanna had escaped to Argentina using a fake profile. Camilla had reason enough not to trust Oliver, and that was why she'd informed the cops when he returned to Cartagena. Indra had warned Oliver that if he ever returned, he would be put under arrest for robbery, theft, false identification, and forgery of official documents. After Oliver was arrested, Miguel visited him and told him that he'd always wanted the best for the both of them. He confessed that he'd burned Oliver's identification papers when they were at the orphanage, because he believed that if he managed to make it out of the place first, he would be able to help his brother from the outside. When he'd later discovered that his brother had been adopted, he was genuinely happy for him, and he convinced himself that Oliver was living a good life, because he could never come to terms with the reality that he'd abandoned him. Miguel begged Oliver for forgiveness, but his confession was a lot for Oliver to process. What does the final scene suggest? Camilla didn't mind risking her life as long as she could find Eva. She was deeply attached to her and she'd been obsessed with finding out what happened. She also felt guilty because she was the one who dropped Eva at the party she'd been abducted from. She was also the one who'd given Eva permission to attend the party since her parents were unreachable at the time. We also discover that, apparently, the cops had found out that David had been working for Angela, and he was the one who'd confirmed that Eva had been living on the island. So why wasn't he arrested? We don't get an explanation for that. Indra wasn't sure if Camilla's plan would work. She had been working on the fake profile case long enough to realize that people like Angela and Joaquin were extremely slippery, and sometimes even the law couldn't get to them. Indra and her team tracked Camilla's location and urged her to keep in touch with them constantly. Shockingly, when Eva saw Camilla, she didn't go to her for help. Instead, she walked up to Joaquin and informed him about the infiltrator. Now, Eva was just 13, and she was very likely brainwashed into believing that this was the best way of living. Camilla soon realized that she'd been recognized and she informed Detective Indra about it. But unfortunately, the cops didn't manage to track her location. It is hilarious that there were videos of the island on the internet. The cops had proper information on how it functioned. They could have contacted David, who could have guided them to the area where the cult was located. Yet, the cops were completely lost. It's strange that the cops chose to remain at a safe distance from Camilla, even after knowing the risk involved. They had every reason to raid the island, since they had information that Eva was being held captive there, and Joaquin, who was basically a fugitive, was running a cult. After the detective lost contact with Camilla, she figured that without proper directions, they couldn't help her, and she was basically on her own. Joaquin made Camilla stand at the edge of a cliff. She asked him why he'd kidnapped Eva, and he responded that she wasn't Eva anymore. She was Adianta. David came to rescue Camilla. He had a gun in his hand that he eventually had to drop after Joaquin threatened to push Camilla off the cliff. Joaquin explained that Angela was responsible for Eva's kidnapping, and suddenly Miguel and Angela arrived in a car. Angela explained that she hadn't heard from her daughter, while Camilla blamed her for everything. Angela then ultimately pushed Camilla off the cliff when she told Angela that she was just like her horrible father. Miguel tried to save Camilla, but he fell off the cliff in the process. Eva came running when she heard the chaos, and she seemed really devastated when she found out what had happened to Camilla and Miguel. Why did she even inform Joaquin about Camilla then, if she truly cared about her so much? Well, Angela was ultimately reunited with her daughter, but the circumstances weren't exactly what she'd hoped for. Fake Profile Season 3's ending scene is designed to make the audience assume that Miguel and Camilla are dead. But if you've watched Colombian dramas before, you know that it takes only a few seconds for the dead to come back to life again. So I refuse to believe that Miguel and Camilla are dead. They surely survived, and they will together come up with a plan, with several loopholes, to take down Angela and Joaquin forever. In Season 4, we can expect Miguel and Camilla's relationship to improve significantly. And who knows, maybe after spending some alone time together, Camilla will eventually accept Miguel's marriage proposal. They might take Detective Indra's help to find a way to take down the cult. Even if for a minute we consider that Indra and her team will end up locating the cult, I'm sure Angela and Joaquin will come up with some big lie to explain everything. And Eva will support them because she is clearly very lost. So Indra will ultimately have to team up with Camilla and Miguel. And this time, the cops better listen to the couple because they were evidently terrible at their job. But before Camilla and Miguel start working on their plan, they will likely let everyone assume that they are dead, so that they can operate easily without drawing attention. Honestly, the story has been stretched to the point that no one really cares now. Or is it just me? Anyways, thank you for watching this video, and do share your thoughts about the ending of Fake Profile in the comments section below. Hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for your weekly dose of cinema and series. We'll see you in the next one, and for the time being, we're signing off. Bye.